with Casey McCollum. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
We're at one of my favorite places, Plant Perfect. And I love all things plants, but really I wanted to talk today about fall. I think people get excited, you know, fall colors, that kind of stuff. But when do you want to do some of that fall planting? You know, I think people get excited in the spring, right?
Yeah.
But this is a good time to start planting now.
Yeah, fall is a great time of year to plant. In my opinion, it's the best time of year.
Okay.
For really a few different reasons. Number one being the temperatures are starting to cool down. We're starting to see that now where temperatures are starting to taper off, the evening temperatures, the daytime temperatures, and that's a really important thing for new plantings because the heat of the summer dries stuff out fast.
Yeah.
You know, we're taking these plants, they have potted plants that have limited root development on them because they're not rooted into the soil, so they need a little bit more water, a little bit more care to get them established. So if we plant them later in the fall, we don't have the heat of the summer pulling all that moisture, torching, and in North Dakota here it gets really windy. You get hot, windy days, and they can dry plants out pretty fast. So that's the biggest thing is we can plant them, we can give them still a really good deep soaking when we plant, and still keep an eye on that root zone around the plant and that soil and make sure we're keeping adequate moisture there. But it's not quite as intensive as that everyday watering and that unrelenting heat stress every day on the plant.
Okay, so what's kind of the cutoff? Too close to being too cold?
So the good thing about when we're putting the plants in the ground is the ground temperatures take a little bit longer into the fall to decrease in temperature. So even though we can be experiencing really cold above ground temperatures, the soil temperature takes a while to drop down and take some good hard freezes. So we can plant, right up to, right up until almost the first frost date. And the roots zone of that plant will continue to grow and continue to develop until that plant really does go into a full dormancy.
Well, that's awesome. And this kind of goes for bigger trees too?
Yeah, trees, shrubs, perennials, all of that. Yep.
Well, then this kind of brings to my next question, because I think, when do you cut stuff down? If it's getting into fall, do you wait? Do you do it in the fall? Do you do it in the spring?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. So when we look at when we're cutting, what we're cutting, that can really vary depending on the species of the plant, and what kind of the bloom habits are of it and when it's growing. So a lot of our perennials, which perennials come back every year, but they die back to the ground. A lot of those, some of them we can do in the spring, but then some of them we can do in the fall. So as a rule of thumb, I usually, on a lot of my perennials, there's certain ones like Russian sage, the heuchera here, that we don't want to cut down in the fall. We want to wait until the spring. So I usually, on a lot of my perennials, I wait until the spring to go through and clean up and do the bed cleanup. And the other big reason for that is we got the grasses here, hydrangeas and stuff like that. We can keep that structure through the winter and it gives us some interest. We don't have to level our landscapes out and cut them down and then let the snow cover. We can let some of this stuff, the seed heads from our echinacea poke through the snow level and give us some interest through the winter months. So I say, why cut them down in the fall when we can wait until the spring?
For sure. So when you're thinking about picking plants, I think that always gives people a little bit of anxiety of which should I put where and when and how far apart.
Yep.
Do you guys have any guidance here at Plant?
Yeah, definitely a lot of great guidance on that. Because we can't just plant the same thing everywhere. We've got plants that have different needs for shade, different needs for sun, different spacing. We got to look at how big the plant is going to get. There's a lot of different things to look at, and we've got some great staff here, some girls that are real true gardeners, that have got decades of experience gardening in their own yards and have a lot of great input on what to plant where and what their experience has been with those plants.
Well, that's so fun. It's always so friendly when you walk in here. You can't walk out not happy, I think.
Well, thank you, Sarah.
Well, thank you so much, Casey. Be sure to stay tuned for more North Dakota